Hello. Hi, Dr. Rando. This is Chama Wallace. I hope you can see me very well. My patient has been in and out for calls. He's an essential worker, so we've not been able to get the video in one shot. So I decided to do it myself, just me alone today. Okay, so we're going to start with this is the video, the musculoskeletal system. Okay, and ideally, like you mentioned, this would have been done while the patient is sitting or is lying on a bed or examination table. So for the purpose of this video, I'll be sitting and standing. So I'm going to start by inspecting each joint. For number one, I'm going to start with the size. So we want to make sure that first of all, I can identify all the joints. Like you said, I should start by identifying all the joints. So we have the temporal mandibular joint, which is between your forehead and your jaw, where they meet. If I grind my teeth hard, I can feel mine somewhere here. And then cervical spine, which starts from your neck and down below. And then we have the shoulders, of course, and then your elbow joint and your wrist, and then your hand. And then we have the hip, and then we have the knee, and also ankle, and then your foot. And then of course we have the whole of our spine. So for inspection, we're going to start with the size. We're going to check our patient to make sure that the size of all the joints, that they are normal, because I know like my grandma has arthritis, so her joints, like the knee joint, is really swollen and mobile almost. So we want to check for also the joints to make sure that nothing is dislocated and they are normal size, growing in supposed length, especially for children. Then for the contour, we're going to check for the roundness and the shape, how it's shaped, like the hinge joint and the ball and socket joint, just to make sure that it's the contour or the shape that it's supposed to be. And then we're going to check for range of motion. So for this, we're going to start with the temporal mandibular joint. So what we want to check here for our patient is have them open their mouth and close it, just to make sure that there is no popping, that pop sound when someone's jaw is like dislocated, that they can open their mouth and close it without any problems. So, and after that, we're going to check for the cervical spine. We're going to make sure that it's nice and symmetrical, but it's nice shaped, and then that there is no problem, they can move it up and down, which for that you can ask your patients to look up and look down, nice chin to chest, and make sure they can move their neck and then from side to side as well. Okay, so for the shoulders, you can ask them to sit relaxed and then have them shrug their shoulders back and forth, and if it's movable, then that's fine as well. And then open and close, flexion. For the elbow, which is the next one, it's going to be for the range of motion. You can ask them to open and close it, which is flexion and extension. So if they can move their elbow joint, open and close, flexion and extension, then that's fine. That is what we want to see. Then for the wrist and hand, we want to make sure that they can move their hand, rotate it, and then for both of them at the same time. And if we have like A and B joint or something, then we have them do all of them at the same time to check for symmetry while we're doing the range of motion. So for the wrist, we'll have them do them at the same time, and then we're going to do have them supinate and pronate, which is supination and pronation. And pronation is prayer, which is, and then supinate and pronate. So yeah, for the supinate, yeah, I remember it by soup, like you said. So supinate and pronate, supinate, pronate. Want to make sure that they can manipulate their wrist freely. So moving to the Fallen test. So for this, we use it to check for the Tinel sign. For the Fallen test, we use it to check for the capotonal, and this we're going to have them flex their hands inwards and then push them together, and they do this for 60 seconds, and if they should feel no numbness or pain. So you have them push their hands together like this, and then have like an upside prayer, and then have them keep it like this for 60 seconds. If it goes numb or there is pain, then that's bad. They shouldn't feel any of those. And then for the Tinel sign, so we're going to check the medial nerve, which supplies the whole hand, and we should be able to tap below the wrist here with your index finger, and they shouldn't feel any pain or numbness when you do that at the medial nerve here. So that is how we check the Tinel sign. And the next one is going to be the hip. So for this range of motion, I'm already sitting straight, so it means that my hip is in good condition. If it wasn't, I'll probably be in pain to sit this straight and not move or shaky or something like that. Also, you can have them sit straight like this and have them push their both knee up towards your hand while you place your hand on their knee. So there should be some resistance. That means that the hip joint is good, is in good condition. So the next one will be ankle and foot. So here you're going to have them rotate their ankle. If I usually can't, but it's just because I have an extended ankle bone. So have them rotate their ankle, and then have them plant, do the plantar flexion and then dorsiflexion. So have them do that a couple of times. That should tell you if have them do the both ankles at the same time too, so you can check for symmetry, and they should be able to do that. So, and after that, have them wiggle their toes as well to check, to make sure that they can perform their range of motion properly. So the next one is going to be the spine, and this one is going to be the spine. And also for this spine, we want to either sit, well, standing will be best in this position, and then stand, and then of course we're going to have them rotate their hip, their back, or while you're checking for the spine, I guess the spine and the hip will also work together. So have them turn from side to side, make sure that it's working, and then have them bend back a little bit, and then also forward and touch their toes. Also, I want to mention that For the shoulder, when you're doing the range of motion for the shoulder, you can as well, when you have them shrug, you can also rotate their shoulder. You can also have them try to take their arm back and forth like this, like they are trying to make a swimming motion, and do that for both hands. And then at the same time as well, if they can do it but they can't, also up and down, and see if they can also do that. That is something I overlooked for the shoulder. Okay, so that concludes our range of motion, and then after that you will move on to the symmetry. For like the shoulders, make sure that they are all aligned, they are not droopy or too hung up like this, and that wouldn't be a good sign. And then you can have them sit perfectly still and check their knees and then their elbows and make sure everything is symmetrical. And then you can also check the color of the skin and tissue over the joint. Like I said in my grammar, skin over the knee is dark grayish color, which is not good, but we know she has some knee issues, serious arthritis issues, so that could be an indication of an illness or something. Same thing with swelling, masses or deformity. You need to check to make sure, because if there's any swelling around that area, it can be sign of an infection or an injury. Or if you feel like masses maybe moving around, maybe the shoulder or the wrist or something, it could be indication of something, of bruises or infection, onset of one. And also deformities, if you have a kid have their elbow hanging at an odd angle, that could be an indication of a fracture or a dislocation. So after that, moving over to palpation. So here we'll be checking both the temperature, the texture to go, if they have any tenderness. You do this for all the joints. So the temperature, you can use the back of your hand, or if you have a thermometer, and you can check if it's cool to touch or it's warm, which if you touch a joint like a knee joint or hip joint and it's very warm, that can be an indication of several things, which is not good. So we can also check the muscle, like the biceps here, or maybe the thigh muscle, to make sure that there is no atrophy. It's not like too strong, like jerky meat, or maybe have some nodules moving around it. It should just be nice and tender or soft. We're going to also check bony articulations and joint capsules. So for the bony articulations, this is where like the bones meet sort of to, you think like the wrist, you're going to just check to make sure that the articulation there is normal, that they articulate very well. There is no, like, you don't try to check and maybe the wings or it's a bit tender or swollen or something is moving at the bone areas. And then for the joint capsule, like where two joint meet, like the hinge joint or the ball and socket joint, you want to make sure that it's moving freely, or there is no lag or gap or pain when those joints are moved. Okay, and this range of motion, of course, we know we have the active and the passive. The active is when they can freely move their joint, head side to side, and move their waist or hip from side to side. Knees, the same thing. And then the passive is when they need help doing that, like in older geriatric population, most of them need help maybe getting out of bed, trying to sit on the wheelchair. Those ones are passive because most times they need help to do one of two things, that especially that involve joints, which almost everything does, like walking, sitting, and all that. So that concludes it for the musculoskeletal system. Excuse me. And then let me make sure I'm not missing anything here. Okay, that looks good. So we're going to go to the neurologic system. Here we're checking the mental status. First one will be the level of consciousness, which is LOC. So for this, we're going to use the GCS, which is the Glasgow the Glasgow Coma Scale. So for this, we want to check first eye opening. So we want to make sure that when you go into a patient's room, they notice you immediately and their eyes pop open and they follow your movement. For the second one is speech. You want to check, make sure that when the next level is speech. This Glasgow Coma Scale is a rated scale, which is this one is from 3 to 15. So it rates the patient's alertness, sort of, which I mentioned here, level of consciousness. So the spontaneously is when you move in, like I mentioned before, into the patient's room and immediately the eyes open and they're alert, and which is a scale of 4. We give them a 4 point for this. And for the speech is when you have to talk to the patient, hello Mr. Wallace, and then their eyes open. And it takes them a few seconds for their eyes to open when you talk to them. So then, and we give them a scale of 3 for this, a point of 3. And for the one of pain is not necessarily like pain, it's more like maybe touch their earlobe and then they open their eyes, or you squeeze or pinch or squeeze their fingertips and then they open their eyes and then respond to your open their eyes only. I give them a 2 point here. And then for none is when you walk into the room, the eyes isn't open, you speak to them, ask them questions, the eyes doesn't open, and you also try to get them to be alert from maybe touching their earlobe, pinching their earlobe or fingers, and their eyes are still not open. For this, it's a none, and we'll give them a point of 1. For verbal response, we're checking for oriented, which is they are aware of their surroundings and they respond to questions when you ask them. And then for confused, here they answer the question. When you ask them a question, they answer it but not correctly. Like asking them, hey Mr. Wallace, what day is today? And they are like, is today not Sunday, but today is actually Tuesday. So we give them a point of 4. And for the oriented, of course, we give them a point of 5. For this confused, we give them a point of 4. Then the next one under this verbal response is the inappropriate. And this time around, they respond but inappropriately. Like you ask them, Mr. Wallace, what day is today? And they're like, I think I had meat pie for lunch today. But that wasn't what you asked them. So you give them a point of 3 for this. Then the next one is incomprehensible. This time around, you ask them questions, they either mutter or mumble and you can't hear them. This one we give them a point of 2. And then the none is there's no response at all. And for this we give them a point of 1. So we move over to the motor response, and this they obey the command, which is, oh hey Mr. Wallace, can you give me a big smile? And then they smile. Or hey Mr. Wallace, can you stretch your arm for me? And they're able to do that. And you give a point of 6 for this. And this ranges from 1 to 15. So the next one is going to be localized pain. So when you pinch their finger or touch their earlobe, they react by trying to move towards that region. So if it's the earlobe, like, and if it's the finger, they move towards the finger, trying to like maybe push you away or something. And give them a point of 5 for this. And then for withdrawal from pain, we give them a point of 4. And this is when you pinch their, say, finger or earlobe, they move away from that area. So you pinch the finger, they like shy away from it, or maybe the halo band, they move totally away from that. So the next one is going to be flexion to pain and extension to pain. So for flexion to pain, when say they are in pain or you introduce a pain to them, say pinching their finger or earlobe or rubbing their chest, for the flexion to pain, they're going to kind of shrink inward and put their hands towards their center or core. And then for extension to pain, they're going to sort of move away from themselves, like put their hands away, maybe behind their back, and shrink away. So, and for the flexion to pain, we give them a score of 3. For the extension to pain, we give them a score of 2. And then when there is none, we give them a score of 1. And this time around, there is no response at all to pain. So the scale of this, of course, is 1 to 15, like I mentioned before. And let's see, that concludes the level of consciousness. And then we're going to move over to orientation to person, place, and time. And this is just simply when you ask the patient, do you know where you are? And they tell you, I'm in St. Baptist Hospital, and do you know who you are? Tell me your name. And then they can say, hey, my name is Mr. Wallace, and then can you tell me what today is? And they say, oh, today is Tuesday. So for the memory, this one, you test them with short-term and long-term memory, which short-term can be, do you remember the last person that visited you? And this is something you can confirm because you have a chart of visitors and they tell you. And then for long-term, you can ask them, do you remember your birthday? It's something you know and you can confirm, and they'll tell you, oh, I was born on October 6th. Okay, and then to assess their motor function, you can gait and ask them, maybe could you walk to your dresser, or could you walk to the closet, or could you walk to the bathroom? And this time around, while they're walking, you check and make sure there is no swaying or grimacing like they're in pain. And then you can also check for balance, which is have them walk on their heels or have them walk on their toes. And then for the Romberg, you kind of have to have them stand, put their hands by their side, close their eyes, and then make sure they're relaxed and watch and make sure there is no swaying from side to side or trying to fall over. And this time, and make sure you stand close to them, because most cases, especially for older patients, they tend to sway, especially when you reorient them from lying down to standing. So that's how to check for Romberg. And the next one is going to be coordination and skilled movement, which is rapid alternating movement, RAM. And for this, it's like playing children's game. You start with sit and have them lift their arms back and forth on their knee with their knee close together like this. And then you move over to rapid finger to thumb, which is you have them use their thumb to count the rest of their fingers rapidly. I have a time lag on this. And then the next one, you can have them stand in front of them and have them stand in front of your patient and have the patient touch their nose and then touch your finger. Touch their nose with your index finger and then touch your finger or your hand. And while they're doing that, you kind of move your hand. Maybe have them do it here, move your hand here, move your hand here, move your hand here, without having breaking or getting confused where your hand or finger is. So the next one is going to be finger to nose, finger to nose test. This time around, you have to close their eyes and spread their I can spread my hand out. So I maybe close the eyes. I have the hands spread out like this. I have them touch their nose and alternate one after the other. So, and then to do the heel to chin test, this one you kind of have them use the heel of the foot and rub it from knee down to their shin. I have them repeat that over and over a few times. So this concludes the motor function testing. For the sensory function, we're going to start with a light touch. So when you do this, we have to do both sides, especially if you're doing like arm to arm. That way you can check for symmetry. And you start with a light touch. If I had a patient, actually had one, but you have a cotton pad and use it to touch different parts of their body and ask them to tell you when they feel the touch. Okay, so and they can tell you yes or no. So you take a cotton pad and you maybe touch them here, and then they tell you when they feel it all over. And then if you do something for the right hand, do it for the left. That way you check the response time. Do it at the same time so you can check the response time. So the next one is going to be pain, sharp and dull, which you can use cotton swab and toothpick for this. You kind of go around, and you also do this for both sides. If you do it for the toe, one toe, do it for the other side of the toe, or ankle to ankle. So you kind of alternate between the toothpick and the cotton swab, and tell them to tell you when they feel sharp or dull, so or pain or dull. I think you use sharp and dull. So if it's the toothpick, it's sharp, they'll tell you sharp. If it's the cotton swab, they'll tell you dull. So you can use that to check as well. Then moving over to vibration, this is posterior column test. So you kind of use tuning fork for this, and we're checking for neuropathy. And this, you have your patient close their eyes, and then you strike a tuning fork and place it on the bony part of your of their fingers, the bony part where the bones are kind of sticking out. Do it for the fingers and do it for the toes. And when you're doing this, you kind of have to compare both sides, so you make sure that the actions are on time or timely at the same time. Timely means at the same time. So you kind of strike the tuning fork on that bony part and ask them to tell you when the vibration stops, not when it starts or when you feel it, when it stops. That way you holding the tuning fork also knows when it stops, and you can kind of check your answer against what they tell you. So you can do this for the vibration. And for the position, which is the kinesthesia, you have them close their eyes again and then hold their fingers at the side, and then they should tell you when you move it up and down, which is you hold your finger by the side. So you say you pick one finger, you hold your finger like this, have them close their eyes, and you kind of move it up and down, and then they will have to tell you, oh, up, down, up, up, down, down. So use another way to check for the neurologic system. And for the tactile discrimination, we're going to check for the stereognosis, which is also going to have them close their eyes, give them a familiar object like a lighter, and ask them, what is this? Or a coin, ask them, could you identify what this is? And then for the graphitesia, you have them also close their eyes again, and you can kind of trace like a number or a letter. You can trace like an S, have them close their eyes, you can trace like an S shape and have them tell you what shape you just made or a number. So the next one is going to be point location. So you're going to also have them close their eyes, and then you're going to kind of lightly touch. You can use a cotton pad here or not, but you kind of go around and touch them in different places and ask them to tell you when they feel, where they feel the touch. So you can have them sit or lie down in the bed, touch the arm, and ask them, where do you feel the touch? They'll tell you arm, they'll tell you face, or tell you jaw, they'll tell you neck. So you can go through all this. And then whatever you're doing for the upper part, make sure we also do it at the lower part. So, and then the next one is going to be reflexes. And this, for the biceps, I'm just gonna go through this with like verbally. This one is going to be okay. So you're going to use the tuning fork again for this, and they'll stretch your arm. You put yours under their own arm and kind of hold it up, and use your thumb to find the tendon here, and then use the tuning fork to strike on top of where you're holding, where that tendon is. So, and then feel the vibration. So when you do this, their arm should flex. One, their muscle here should contract, and then this arm should flex up like without like a jerk, reflexively, reflexively. So it should like flex up when you do that correctly. And then for the triceps, which is at the elbow, have them dangle their arm. Just tell them let your arm play dead and dangle, and then strike above the elbow. Their elbow should jerk reflexively when you do that with the reflex hammer. So strike above the elbow when you vibrate. Have the reflex hammer vibrate, then strike above the elbow when the arm is hanging at an angle, and it should flex automatically. So we're going to do this for the brachioradialis, which is you're going to kind of put your thumb towards you. If they're facing you, kind of put their thumb towards you like this, and then strike below the wrist here. And then when you do that, their arm should also flex. And the last one is going to be patella, which is the knee. So here you kind of have to look at an edge, maybe higher seat, or maybe their hospital beds are usually high, or you can lift it and make it go higher, and then have them hang at the edge. Here you're going to make sure you don't strike way above the knee or way below, or they won't feel it, which has happened to me before. I didn't feel anything, so I didn't flex my knee. I didn't even know I was supposed to flex my knee, so I didn't, and they got confused and scared. I'm like, I don't know how you want me to respond, but I am perfectly fine. So, but now reading this, I found out that if they had done it right, my knee is supposed to flex. So they're supposed to find the tendon here, just below the knee bony part, and then strike the reflex hammer, and you should instinctively just flex. Your knee should instinctively flex, and then the thigh muscle here should contract. So that concludes the reflexes. And then, no, it doesn't. I still have two more, which is the Achilles heel and the clonus. For the Achilles heel, this is ankle jerk. So we're going to push the foot upwards, like flexing the foot up and down. So push it upwards, and then behind the foot here, the Achilles heel here, you should strike on that part, and instinctively you should jerk. The foot is going to jerk or just react instantly when you do that correctly. So for the clonus here, have the patient flex their feet back and forth, plantar flex and dorsiflex. Have them go back and forth and then dorsiflex. That is upward. When you dorsiflex for say 10 seconds, there should, and then release it, there should be no sort of muscle movement, or maybe the skin popping or having like muscle move, or like as if something is crawling under your skin. There shouldn't be any of that. If there is, then then it means that it's clonus, which is bad. Okay, and then for superficial reflexes, plantar, which is the Babinski test. For this one, you're going to have the patient foot facing you, which is the pad is exposed here, and then you're going to trace like an upside J here, which is the shape, actually the shape of your foot, like this. It's like a J. Okay, then you trace it. If you trace it, and then at this point you can use tuning fork here or a light touch and do that. They should plantar flex, which means if you have your foot like foot like this and you trace the J, you should push towards you, like they're planting their foot on the ground, planting towards the ground. That is the normal reaction. Abnormal reaction is when you do that, the dorsiflex and then their toes flex or spread like this. Then that's the abnormal reaction, which is not what we want. Okay, and then that concludes the reflexes. So for this, of course, I should mention that the scale for the reflexes ranges from 4 to 1, from 4 plus to 1+ and then to 0, which 4 plus is very brisk and hyperactive, brisker than average. Is number 3 plus, and then 2 plus is average and normal, and 1 plus is diminished and low normal. 0 is no response, which I had when I had a patella, right? Yes, when I had patella reflex done to me at the hospital sometime when I was new here in US. So moving on to the AVPU. Now this is bedside neuro, which you said you love. Okay, so we're going to start with this. Is when, like you said, you're not in a hurry, but you need to give maybe a quick exam for some reason or the other. Maybe it's an emergency, and for this level of consciousness, when we use the AVPU, is mostly you go from A to V to P to U, like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So we're going to go from alert and full consciousness, and if they're awake, alert, eyes are open spontaneously when you walk into the room. If not, then you move over to the verbal stimuli, which you talk to them. Hello, Mr. Wallace, can you hear me? And if that doesn't work, you move over to the pain, which is when you maybe touch their earlobe or pinch their finger or try to rub their chest. And if that doesn't work, you move over to the unresponsive to speech and pain. And that means the person's not responding to any of the first 3. And the next one is the orientation PPT. For this, it's going to be person, place, and time. So it's going to be person, your name, first name, last name. Place is, do you know where you are? Time is, do you know what day today is? and then you move to motor and muscle. For this, they're going to start with the hand, ask the patient maybe to make a fist and squeeze your hand around 2 fingers. For this, you use only 2 fingers. Have the patient squeeze your 2 fingers. If they squeeze them and you can pull out, that's good. If they squeeze your fingers and you can easily wriggle out of it or pull out of it, then that's not good. So for the leg, you ask them to lift their leg while you press on their back, which is what we did before. So they try lifting their leg like this, up like this, and you press down on the thigh, or lift them both together and then you press down. If there's no resistance, then that's bad. But if you're pressing down and they're not able to lift their leg, then and if you're pressing down and they're able to still lift their leg, then that's good, they pass. So for the sensory response, we're going to go with a fine wisp of cotton. Of course, you're going to brush it against their skin. It can be the chest. If you do the left hand, you have to do the right. The same thing with the arm, the toes, the leg, or anywhere over the body. You have to kind of interchange it so that they don't expect the next thing and just tell you yes for just the sake of saying yes. And then for the pain, you can use maybe a toothpick. Do the same thing with a cotton bud and have them close their eyes, because if they close their eyes, they feel, I guess you feel it more whatever is happening around you. Like you say, if you close one sense, the other one, others heighten. So you also use a toothpick, you use a cotton swab and interchange it, and they tell you if it's pain or dull. And whatever you do, of course, to the upper extremities, you have to also do for the lower. If you do for the right hand side, you do for the left. That way you kind of check the timing. And then for the peller, here is going to be people is equal round response to light and accommodation. Accommodation is when you say ask the patient to look at you, look at your finger, and have them follow your finger from left to right, up to down, and make sure that they don't lag away or lazy away or maybe lose concentration. That's for the accommodation. I must start from the end. And the first one is going to be people equal round, which is assess the size of the people, make sure that the shape is not like one is smaller or a little bit spherical in shape, and then the size is a normal size, not fully dilated, which it's not good. And then the symmetry, make sure that they are where they're supposed to be and on each of the eye, not one is maybe towards the left and the other one is towards the right, which is bad. And then you're going to, of course, shine the light. Use for the response to light, you're going to use a pen touch, shine the light, and see if they constrict. They're supposed to shrink, like pinpoint. So make sure that also also try to touch the eye and see if they blink, which is good. And knee reflex, of course, we've done that one. Hang over the bed at an angle, have them dangle, and then use the tuning fork and make sure, and the knee should reflex instantly. So that concludes this last video assessment, and this one shows how to check the motor response and also the pupil gauge, how to check the sizes of the pupil, and that's it. Easy peasy. Thank you so much.